Welcome to Conscious Marketing Movement podcast, where we bring you thought-provoking conversations to challenge traditional marketing practices and inspire a new paradigm, shaping the future of marketing for a better tomorrow. In our first season, we'll explore how can marketing drive climate action. We'll be talking with sustainability communicators, brand strategists, designers, all sharing their knowledge and first-hand experiences. So whether you're listening to us at home with your favorite beverage or on your daily commute, make yourself comfortable and enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone. In this episode, we're joined by James Gill, a co-founder of Ecosend, the world's first climate-conscious email marketing platform, helping you grow your audience while regrowing forests. Today, we'll go into James's journey of how he founded Ecosend. We'll also look at surprising environmental impact of our inboxes and together learn how can we make email marketing more conscious and more sustainable. So if you're a marketer who uses emails for your work, or if you're an entrepreneur and are looking for a more environmentally friendly platforms, then this episode is for you. Welcome, James.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, we here in the Conscious Marketing Movement have been, I know many of us individually and together have been huge supporters of Ecosend for years now.
Yeah.
When did you start the company? When was the beginning? In which year?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for all the support so far. It feels like we're still just getting started, but we started about 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it launched almost 2 years ago to the day, actually. So, but we've been working on it for probably more like 2.5, 3 years, really.
Okay, so not too long.
Not too long at all, no.
And you're very well known in the kind of marketing and climate.
Yeah. The Ecosend is something we've been working on for that time, but we've been working on building software for like 20 years, really, since I was a spotty teenager with my friends. JT, my co-founder, we've been working together for decades at this point. So building software has been something we've done for a long time, but Ecosend is relatively a very new thing. So it's really exciting to see it starting to be used by more and more wonderful people, organizations. It's a very exciting time. Yeah.
Well, huge congrats. It's an amazing product.
No, thank you. No, I mean, we're just following honestly in the footsteps of lots of our customers like you. So yeah, it's really exciting, and we take it with a huge amount of responsibility to be the ones that anyone sends their email with. So
right, because the responsibility is massive. Actually, I would like to start today by looking at the problem. Just dive straight in. I found the statistic that 340 billion emails are sent every day.
Yes.
And a lot of them are not even opened. So they stay in our inboxes, accumulating email waste. The term that honestly, I haven't really heard before. Yeah. And it made me wonder why we don't talk about email waste. Why do you think this is a much bigger issue than people might think?
Yeah, no, I guess just rewinding a little bit, we've been working in the world of software for a long time. And I honestly, and I feel a bit embarrassed to admit it now, but I never ever thought about our environmental impact as a team of people building software. If you have a factory, if you have trucks, if you're taking raw materials and building physical products, you of course are slightly more connected to your impact on the planet. When you're building software, you have a laptop and you type away on your laptop and you don't see fumes, you don't see raw materials, you don't see any of this stuff. And so we never really thought about anything we did in regards to the environment. And about 2.5 or so years ago, we were in London. It was actually the hottest day on record in London. And we were sitting around as a team working on some stuff. And someone shared some of those stats you just mentioned, that there's all these emails being sent, 340, 50 billion emails a day. And did you know emails have a carbon footprint? And we were like, what? That doesn't really, that surely not. And we were initially a bit skeptical, because we're like, yeah, even if it do, is it that much? But it led us on this journey of discovering this whole kind of world of digital sustainability, which is a term many perhaps viewers or listeners have come across, where you try and design and build web services with an environmental concern in mind. And essentially the whole kind of area is basically like trying to think about how much energy does it take to do the thing you're doing online. Everything we do, whether you're using your laptop, connecting to a cloud service, ultimately it's computers that have to be manufactured, have to be constructed, have to be shipped around the world, that then need energy to run. And so when you think about it, everything we do digitally ultimately has this physical presence, and that applies to our web searching, our email sending, our internet browsing, our AI usage, all of these things.
Absolutely right.
So yeah, when you're building anything on the web, anything digitally, having those concepts in mind, that ultimate thing in mind, we've just felt is the right thing to do. The great thing, what we have discovered over time, is with email, if you try and approach building an email platform with that in mind, it also makes a lot of sense for what marketers want, which is emails that get delivered, that get sent, without sending emails that don't need to get sent, with looking after data and making sure you don't hold on to data unnecessarily, which helps from a compliance perspective. So all of these things, basically, no one's losing. It's just everyone's winning by approaching things with that digital sustainability mindset. So yeah, that's kind of our philosophy. Yeah, seems like people so far want to do more of that, which is good.
What was your personal kind of connection? Because when you said everything we do digitally has a physical presence, I think this is so important to understand and grasp, because we are so disconnected when we're in front of our laptops. We focus on the task that we need to do. We're kind of in this like very narrow kind of minded workflow. So then to connect that every click, especially on AI, it has this massive carbon footprint. How did you make that connection within yourself?
I think it was honestly like specifically that combination on one day of like, it's a really hot day in London, this feels weird. The climate seems to be changing, and even we can feel it here in London. To think about the digital side of things, it kind of flipped a switch somewhere in my mind of like, I was aware that what we do uses cloud computing, but I wasn't ever before that thinking about cloud computing as this huge building full of computers that needs energy. I was more thinking about it of this huge building full of computers that does stuff for you, that's a machine that you can utilize to make great things happen. I think both of those are absolutely true. Like what cloud computing has enabled us to do is incredible. Like, you know, so much of the services we all take for granted today are possible thanks to some of that revolution. But combining that with the consideration of it's not just free in terms of the cost financially, but the cost for other consequences. And that was something that we thought about quite a bit of, like, email is in some ways unique, sort of darting onto another thought here, but like for marketers, they often think of, it's easy to think of email as free. You know, you can go into, even you can go into Gmail, send an email off. I'm maybe showing my age here, but I remember a time when, you know, texting a friend, you paid per text. Yes. and, you know, as marketers, we think about running ads, you know, you pay for every click on Google, you pay for every 1,000 impressions on Facebook. Email's been this kind of channel that people think of as free. And I think people use it in that mindset too, where there's no negative consequence of sending an email. And actually, I think we flipped this switch for ourselves with all of these factors of thinking, wait a minute, email is not really free. Email, maybe you don't charge per send as a platform, or Gmail doesn't charge per send, or Ecosend doesn't charge per send. But for the total costs, not just financial costs, the total costs, it's not free. There is computing resource needed to send that thing. There is time needed to send that thing. There is certainly time needed for the recipients to receive that thing and understand whether it's important to their daily life or not. It's an interruption to people's day, perhaps. So thinking about those unintended consequences, like in this realization that everything as we do as humans there is a consequence of every action we take, and that gets maybe a little bit deep, but but we
I can go deep. Gosh, you took me there. Okay, yes, I never actually thought about what would happen if suddenly, I don't know, Gmail starts charging for emails to send.
Everyone would be, I would be willing to bet good money. Everyone would be very conscious of every single email they send.
Maybe that's not such a bad thing when we think about environmental footprint, right?
Exactly. I think I'd also say on the environmental side, we also think about this with Ecosend increasingly, that there is the digital footprint of email, but then the carbon footprint of the digital piece of email. But then for marketers, especially anyone, what are you doing as a marketer? You are trying to often encourage people to buy a thing.
Yes.
And so really, like, the total footprint of a campaign, yes, there's the digital piece, but what about the thing that people are buying? And so that's why we are very conscious of, with Ecosend, we don't just let anyone send email with Ecosend. We are very conscious of the customers we have, and we want to make sure that value alignment is there as well, so that, it doesn't make sense, right? You send an email campaign with us and your digital sustainability piece is fine, but you're actually selling oil or petrol, then that's not really that's not really the big picture here. That's not really what we're trying to achieve. We want to be ultimately helping more sustainable, more conscious organizations, purpose-driven organizations to be thriving and growing in this world. And we want to give them the tools to do that.
Mm-hmm. And you're part of B Corp now. I know you're in the process of.
We are in the process of that. Yeah, we are not yet a B Corp. We are very much hopeful to be one very soon. And that whole movement, I'm very proud actually of, one of the things being in London. Many would argue that London is like the B Corp capital of the world now. We've got I think it's over 1,000 B Corps in London alone. And I think the more time I spend with that community, the more it fills me with a lot of hope and a lot of optimism. There's an overwhelming abundance of not so great news right now. But when you spend time in communities, like the conscious marketing community and the B Corp community and various other communities like this, you see groups of people that are all living their lives and building businesses and organizations that are just trying to do a bit better in the world.
Can you help maybe our listeners to understand how Ecosend works in terms of offsetting? Because you have planted over 10,000 trees.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you explain us how this process works?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I'd have to say is offsetting, as I've gone on this journey, is not the solution to everything we have to do as a society, as a species. When we think about our environmental impact, we absolutely think about a number of levels. So there's the reduction piece, trying to make sure everything we do that is within our control, we reduce the environmental impact in every way possible. So whether that's every single supplier we have and choose what are their standards. With the software we build, how do we make sure it's running on renewable energy and thoughtfully designed? With the software we build, the code we write, every feature we build, how do we think about it in terms of using as little energy as possible? Even though you're using renewable energy, how do you use as little of that as possible? How do we enable our customers to also follow through with those principles? And then there's this ripple effect also impact of us having these values and wanting to kind of multiply them out. So encouraging our customers to communicate their values. I think that's a huge other side of this. It's a narrative, a storytelling of, people realizing even their digital lives might have a consequence on the planet. Well, if people start realizing that, what other changes do they make in their lives? So there's another piece there. So there's reduction, there's sort of the ripple effect piece. The offsetting piece is probably the third and final piece, which is where we know we can't reduce to zero. There are things that are just out of our control. We do everything we can to try and estimate the carbon footprint we do have and that our customers have with all of their own email sending, their own campaigns. We try to establish, how many people is a campaign going to, how big is the email, where is it going in the world, what's the makeup of energy in each part of the world. and try and understand a ballpark carbon footprint for those campaigns, and then try to, at the very least, offset that. Hopefully, as time goes on, investing more in projects, technologies, innovation that is not just tree planting, but is actually going and trying to tackle some of these environmental challenges at the root cause. So there's a lot more we really believe can be done there, and I just think we're just scratching the surface, honestly, of what we can do. Yeah.
But I think that's why it's an amazing startup, because there's just so much more to do, right?
Yes.
Kind of feels like, okay, we're at the beginning of this, not just you as a company, but also we trying to figure out how to calculate our footprints, what other ways apart from offsetting, because we do know that offsetting has its own critics, but I don't know, my personal kind of outlook right now on offsets, as you say, there are these emissions that we just can't completely eliminate them.
Yeah.
So offsetting is an option, and what I've seen working with environmental organizations as a marketer, that what's really working for clients and also for people that are buying the services is a locality. So if you can offset in your country, I found it that people have so much more trust rather than I'm offsetting and planting some trees somewhere, somewhere completely, across the pond, the other side of the ocean, and I don't have that connection, and I don't have the kind of cultural understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on it perfectly there with the trust, the transparency piece. I think if anything, it's just everything with environment, sustainability, anyone trying to lead with that as a reason to buy their service over someone else, it's like the trust is just totally intertwined with transparency. I don't think you can have the trust without the transparency. And when we started with Ecosend, we were so hesitant. We almost didn't start Ecosend because we didn't really know much. We knew about building software, but we sure as heck were not climate experts. And so we kind of went on we are still absolutely on that journey of educating ourselves, but trying at every stage, what we learn, trying to share it back out and be transparent with what we're learning, and making sure that whenever we make a mistake, we're communicating that back to ourselves, correcting it, and telling everyone else. And I think this whole sort of path of becoming a more sustainable, maybe regenerative business, and trying to be conscious about our impact on the world. No one has it all figured out. No one knows it all.
Like the time of individuality, I think, is done. We're at the point of the climate crisis where if we're gonna kind of carry on playing this big ego game, like, look how amazing I am, I'm this amazing entrepreneur making lots of money, and I'm so much better than you, and as you say, with no transparency, it's just not going to go anywhere. We're at the point of literally environmental collapse, and we are living in a very scary times, and addressing that and coming together as companies, and especially as small and medium scale companies. I think that's why it's so also powerful. When you're not that big, you're kind of managing to make more change because maybe you're not so lost in the whole bureaucracy, and you can have those dialogues with your team or with your co-founders, with your team members, of like, okay, how do we deal with the situations? If we made a mistake, how do we communicate about that? So thank you for bringing that. That's a big takeaway. I would like James to come back to emails. I'm personally a big fan of email marketing. As a marketer, I find it so much more enjoyable compared to social media marketing. You can do long-form storytelling. You can really form that connection and grow your list and control your list. Control is not the right word, but just to, as you say, in some way at least choose who those people are, who is your tribe. And now, touching on the amount of emails we usually send as maybe in traditional marketing practices, the way of doing email marketing is, especially if you're doing a launch, send as many as you can. try to put pressure, put lots of countdowns in your emails. What would you say, how can we change that? How can we send fewer but better emails?
It's a great question, Deva. Yeah, we certainly think about ethical email marketing quite a lot. That's what we are always trying to work with our customers to do. We're often learning a lot from our customers on this, as well as like helping our other customers. I think, this sort of concept of less but better is absolutely what we think about. I think we tread this delicate line because we don't want to sort of be like the email police and tell you not to do certain things. Like, for us, Ecosend it's a tool, but there's also sort of recommended ways of using the tool. I think it's a fine line of being a opinionated tool versus being dictatorial about how people should use the platform. And that's something we are always trying to balance, because like we're certainly not trying to be an agency that will come in and explicitly give you the exact things to do and don't deviate from this path at all. I think, though, there are a lot of brands sending a lot of unnecessary emails in the world. I mean, I check my own inbox every morning and there's a lot of stuff I don't need to receive. Sometimes a campaign should go to everyone for various reasons. It might be essential. But I think we always just try and look at this from the perspective of what we can do and what our thoughts are on it, and how do we approach email ourselves as a team. I think one of the things that's really been obvious to us is that most email tools make it far too difficult to actually do anything other than send to your whole audience. Like the default is send to everyone. And segmenting down is either just difficult because it's a clunky interface. It might be a paid upgrade to actually do segmentation, or it's just that people don't have valuable enough information in order to segment their audience. So there can be all of these kind of factors of why someone might not. And also, if you've got an audience of 50 people, that's quite different to having an audience of 500,000 people, and different kind of consequences of both. We, as a tool, really try to make it as easy as possible for you to trust the information you have in there, the data you have, the contacts you have. And we try to make it as easy as possible to only send to the people that it will be relevant to. So we make it really easy to segment. Every plan we offer includes really advanced segmentation, but also just trying to help you do things that are not just totally pointless. Like, for instance, sending to incorrect email addresses that are just not going to receive email at all, or that are going to bounce back. People that have already unsubscribed or marked as spam, and things like that. Just trying to make sure we make it really easy to not do silly stuff, but then trying to level up beyond that and make it really easy to then go and segment. And that relies on a good data foundation, I think, and ease of use. I think we still see, and I'm kind of shocked at this in 2025, where so many people still do email no differently to what they would have done in 1995, where people are fearful of the word automation, they're fearful of the word segmentation. These are quite scary concepts. They're not things you do when you just send a message to a friend. So kind of demystifying these concepts a little bit and making them more accessible for us is kind of a bit of a mission with our product, to just make it easier for people to do that. And then for those who are more sophisticated, just giving them more and more tooling to help them do that successfully is kind of our goal. But less but better is exactly the kind of ethos we try.
And relevance, I guess what you touched on, is segmentation is in my opinion, is just essential. Especially if you're a big organization. Let's say your email list is 70,000 people. Not everyone's going to be interested in the same topic. So just simply segmenting, asking people, I think that's a very big takeaway I've been learning from other ethical email marketers out there. Always ask people, what are you interested in before they even sign up to your newsletter, and then keep on kind of checking if they're still opening the emails, if they find it relevant. I find clients, they're very afraid to clean their lists.
Yeah.
And I really try to encourage them that don't be afraid. Like, these are not, we don't want these vanity numbers. It's not so much about the numbers, it's about the quality at the end of the day. So if you have these like tens of thousands or even bigger lists, but your open rate is like 15-16%, there's no good. Not for the planet, not for the clients or for your business in the end.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think it's such a good point, that the whole vanity metrics thing, and it really is, vanity metric is exactly the right word, like phrase for a list size, because everyone talks about list size, and it's like two people could have a list of 50,000 contacts, and one could be 50,000 people that genuinely want to receive this specific email, and one could be 5,000 people that might consider opening the email if you're lucky. And they're both like, everyone touts the 50,000 number, they don't tout the 5 people that purchased, or and so I think we look at it a lot in terms of trying to encourage our customers to think about the goal of every campaign they send. And that sounds really obvious, I know, but like, I'm just amazed generally in business, so many people just do things because that's what was done before, or that's what the person before me did, or that's what I did at my last job. Actually starting from like, what's the goal of us doing this? Why are we sending out newsletter on Fridays? Why is this automation running? Like, often no one knows. And so trying to bring it back to the goal, and then measuring your success based on whether you're achieving that goal, the measurement of success suddenly becomes kind of pretty much integral to the thing, rather than we're doing this activity and maybe 6 months later someone's going to ask what the goal is, and then we need to figure out how to measure that. Like, ideally you think about this all in an integrated kind of approach, and that usually works a bit better.
And applying critical thinking, because I'm definitely guilty. When I was, junior marketer and starting out, you learn from the people who are, 10 years ahead of you. And I certainly learned techniques, and especially with launches. Oh my God, it would be just an email every day.
Yeah.
And now I look at the stats, I evaluate, is this really effective? I guess, when we talk about these big issues like climate and causing lots of emissions, and people are having difficult lives, and I think we need to address that too. Just sometimes surviving in the current economy is difficult, but it is, at the same time, we need to address, as you say, that there's nothing for free, and there is always a cost at the end of whatever you're doing. So asking yourself, by making this action, by sending lots of emails, what am I doing? What am I trying to get out? And what's the damage that I'm causing as well?
Yeah, I think the summary of all of it is exactly what your community is all about, being more conscious about everything we are doing. I think there's this inherent conflict that we have as marketers of like being ethical, being conscious of what we're doing, and ultimately driving consumption. These are very difficult things to balance, I think, for one's own understanding of what the right or wrong thing to do is. And I think it just has to start with being conscious and aware of what we are doing, of every action we have, of what are the possible consequences of that. And if we don't have that consciousness of what we're doing, then there's no hope. If we've got the consciousness of it, then we can at least be a lot more deliberate about where our efforts go and what we're trying to achieve and do. But I certainly see a world where, thanks to movements like yours, and hopefully a little bit of help from organizations like us and a lot of our customers, like a world where good and purpose-driven and conscious organizations are doing better and better in the world, and they are making up for some of the less good actors in the world, and hopefully we can see a lot more of that over the next few years.
Hopefully. Thank you so much, James. I think it's also a lot of fun to work for something that is really meaningful, and you don't have to do it alone. So if you're a marketer or communications expert or an entrepreneur or someone even who's just thinking of getting yourself into this industry, know that you're not going to be alone. There's communities out there. There's amazing tools out there. We are at the beginning of change making. We're not going to stop. The hope is the only way. And thank you so much, James, for finding time to chat with me today.
Pleasure.
For coming here. And I wish you all the best with Ecosend.
Thank you very much. Likewise, a pleasure.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you would like to learn more about what is conscious marketing and join the community of entrepreneurs and change makers marketers, head to consciousmarketingmovement.com and join the membership.